People's Court. It is time that we have that conversation around how best we can manage our traffic systems to ensure that then we have laws enforced, but of importance that we have sanity on the roads. At some point in time, we all have used the public transport. Just what was your experience? This is some of the things that we'll be asking this evening. As we all share our experiences, we also want to come up with solutions that will be helpful enough to help the government, get to a point where we can enforce the law for the betterment of this particular sector. And of course, we'll be getting to that very conversation as I get to introduce my guests on the show this evening. We are delighted to as well have on these other sides, I would say Kenyans, but basically also students and persons that are constantly using the public transport sector. And therefore, we all have our stories, our experiences, but importantly, we have some of these proposals that will be considered as solutions. On these other sides, we have representatives of the various sectors of the Matatu industry, but basically the public transport sector. And of course, right next to me is Dickson Bogwa, the National Chairperson of Matatu Welfare Association and Secretary General, Federation of Public Transport Sector. Senior, thank you so much for coming. As well, on the other side, right next to Senior is Paul Thiongo. Paul Thiongo is the Chairperson Forward Travelers. This is a SACCO.
Yes.
This is a SACCO. We all understand what has happened.
Yeah.
Of course, we're not here to incriminate, but we also need to know what are some of the things that the SACCO entities need to do to ensure that there is sanity. And of course, we also do not have a repeat of what has happened with Super Metro. And right next to you is Albert Karagasha, President Matatu Owners Association. Senior, this is not your first time here.
Yes.
So karibu sana. It's always a pleasure having you. And last but not least is Lucy Washuka, that is Madenge, Secretary General Association of Matatu Transport Owners. Thank you so much for creating time, ma'am. On this other side, we have Mulamba, we have Baba Zuri, that is none other than Mwansa. Mwansa naona hata amevaa kofia Radio 47, ameshakuwa member huyu. We appreciate the contribution hugely. Mwansa is always tasked to ensuring that he brings his people on board, and he does a great job, and therefore we appreciate you so much. So that, those are traits of leadership, and we appreciate so much. So we also have Madam HR. The rest of us, tutakuwa tunajiintroduce as we continue. All of you are coming here for the first time, and so we appreciate your presence here. But first, let's listen in to what the Commandant Traffic Department, the Traffic Department, that is Dr. Frederick Ochieng, had to say. We sat down with him earlier on just to get to hear the view of what would be the government's position as to the road situation or the rogue culture of the Matatu on board. And this is what he had to say. We witnessed 2 Matatus impounded sometime in January 2025. We have seen the purge that has been put on board as to the Super Metro SACCO on vehicles, that is, as to concerns of them continuing to flout the traffic rules. We continue to see many other, SACCOs as well as Matatus, as well as, public transport, vehicles, being put to task. Just what steps are being taken to ensure that we have sustainable enforcement elements, given the past failures that we have witnessed as to curbing rogue operators?
Thank you. Just as I've said that we have several stakeholders that we coordinate with in ensuring that there is road safety.
Yeah.
Our greatest stakeholder in this area is the NTSA. Mm-hmm. And most of the road public safety is under the mandate of NTSA. Right. And the National Police Service in particular. So there are other powers that the National Transport Safety Authority may not have. And that is when we come in, that's where we now come in on enforcement. And like now, like the one of the suspension of Super Metro, you understand they issued the suspension order. Yeah. The National Police Service does not have that power. But that power is with the National Transport Safety Authority. Mm-hmm. But then they now collaborate with us to assist them and enforce, because the police now have power to stop, search and detain and seize. Yeah. Yeah, so those are the collaborative efforts that we make towards ensuring that whenever there is a particular law that is in force, mm-hmm. whether it's not within our mandate, but when it comes to the enforcement, we are charged with enforcing all laws with which the department is charged with.
Do you consider this one sustainable, or those ones that can guarantee a sustainability and enforcement?
Yeah, the enforcement is always throughout.
Okay.
Once law is in existence, there's nothing that hampers the enforcement. It only depends with maybe if people have, if it has been implemented or people have complied.
Okay.
Sometimes the rate of enforcement subsides. Yes.
The police sector has likely been incriminated in this. It continues to happen today, that today if you're not found with your insurance, you could just tip the police about 3,000 bob, about 1,000 bob and get away with it. How is this being addressed? Okay.
Corruption has been a problem in the National Police Service. But as from the time I took over the mantle of this traffic department, we have
put... That is in September sometime last year?
Yeah, September last year.
Okay.
At least we have put some strategies in a bid to prevent or to lower the rate of corruption in the service. And sometimes we do say that corruption is two-sided. There's the giver and there's the there's the taker.
Yes.
So fighting corruption does not only incline on one side of the taker. There should also be other efforts on the giver.
Okay.
Because this is like a culture. It is like a culture. And you see, a behavior maybe grows from an environment that pertains or that gives prominence to such behaviors. The greatest thing that we need to enhance is the public sensitization. Yeah. So that members of the public get to understand that corruption is evil and it damages the integrity and it downgrades the economy. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the public need to understand. There is a need for public sensitization so that the public get to understand that corruption is wrong, is evil, because in most cases, even the police officers along the road, you find a situation where they have not called for that bribery, but the members of the public themselves, in fact, the touts themselves, coming up and making suggestions, even for those officers who are not willing, and then they are enticed into accepting.
And yes, Dr. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because then I would want to understand what is the place of research as well as education campaigns in terms of making sure that we shift that cultural attitude towards road safety.
Yeah, we have made some of the research on how we can be able to control and minimize the corruption along our public roads. And even as I am talking now, I had made some proposals to the Deputy Inspector General, and we are procuring some of the equipment that may assist us along the public road to reduce this culture of corruption, so that even members of the public would be able now to give us reports on the corrupt activities that they happen to have observed along those public roads.
All right, and I think from there we'll also get to listen some more as to what he said as to the situation, because then it was necessary that we get the voice of the government. And while listening to the traffic commandant, he argues that so many other times they have called upon those ones that are in the public sector, the transport sector, Matatu sector for that matter, for conversations. Sometimes these meetings are actually arranged by them, and then of course upon them coming, they find that there's actually no one to sit for a meeting with them. Do you suppose that there's a disconnect? Do you suppose that there's a gap in how police operate, alongside those ones that are stakeholders in the Matatu industry? Karagasha.
Okay, to us, I think there is a gap, and we need that's what we call political goodwill within the government, because if you ask the issue of corruption, you get our drivers are being forced to give money by force. Okay. That is from the police and even the county government. So there is a big gap, and we need to think about how to bring the gap together, because police are our brothers and sisters. So we need to think how to work closely, but not pushing the driver, the conductor, to give bribe. And maybe going forward, we need to urge the passengers, wherever they are, if they see any police getting into the vehicle, they need to make sure that, because the law does not allow the police to enter into the vehicle, they need to make sure that they need to shout and make sure that that police should be out of that vehicle.
And one of the concerns that he raised as well is the fact that, there's a lot of fear that has been instilled, that is onto the police sector, in the sense that they actually are scared of a public that is going to be rogue on them, a public that is going to rough them up. They are actually even scared that, now it's videos left, right, and center. And therefore, they tend to take a backseat, and that then means lawlessness will automatically creep in. Is that really the right way to go if a police is coming to enforce what is law and order, that everybody is supposed to shout and go against what?
You see, if you go to other countries, developed countries, we will not see the police entering the vehicle.
Right.
To us, what we are saying as an industry, the government should come up with a way. Why should we need to have what you call a mobile police on our roads.
Okay.
We don't need to have police being, maybe they are just standing somewhere waiting for the Matatu to come and then they go into the Matatu. Okay. We need to work in a professional way. We have cameras whereby we should put those cameras on our roads so that at the end of the day we can try to help, they can try to help us to stamp the issue of corruption in our vehicles. Okay.
Minus the police, just how professional, and ma'am, maybe we come to you, just how professional is the Matatu sector, minus the police, such that we do not get to witness the cases that we've witnessed where someone has been thrown out of Matatu, that, sometimes they're actually roughing up passengers, sometimes they're rude to passengers, sometimes, there's a lot of activities that plays out in there. The drivers are not disciplined on the road. Just how streamlined is this sector to manage, minus the hand of the police?
Thank you. The first thing is that when we formed SACCOs and companies, it was about bringing law and order to our workers. And the mandate was given to the SACCOs and companies to some extent, so that every SACCO knows the number of workers that they have, maybe the drivers, they have their documents, and if there is an errant driver, the SACCO or company is capable of removing that driver from the road, not to operate, because they have that mandate before they go to NTSA.
Do they do that?
Let me say, yes.
Are the SACCOs hands-on the road to understand what operations play out?
Let me say, in some cases, yes and no. Like town service. Town service, let me say, it's a bit unruly. One thing that makes it maybe more unruly is that we have one Matatu may have about 5 to 10 workers who are not legal workers. You may find that, let me give an example of, I operate from town to Ongata Rongai Kiserian. Maybe if my vehicle stops at Nyayo Stadium, you may find that there are boys there who are not employed by the SACCO, who are not employed by the county government, and who are not even employed by the government. They are there to fetch for themselves. Yes. And if our workers do not cooperate with them, many times you may find there is trouble. You may find the drivers are beaten, the conductors the same. Sometimes you have even seen Abirias being harassed, still on the same stages. But all in all, we had first recommended to the government about us having the instant fines, whereby if there is something that has been done by any of the workers, maybe it is overlapping, maybe it is the driver stops at a place that is not designated, we had said that instant fines would be better.
And what has happened in terms of implementing that? Allow us to take a short break. I will want to allow the ladies and gentlemen on this side to just share their experiences. First of all, with the Matatu, industry, as opposed to boda boda and any other public transport sector. And then we will delve deep into that. But that should be after this short break.